Today, we're going to cut through all the daily noise and really dig into the core mechanics of PLAZM supply. We're talking about the fundamental, long-term engine that is completely reshaping its economic foundation.
Okay, but before we dive in, just a quick and important reminder. This is all for educational purposes. It is absolutely not financial advice. You know the drill. Digital assets are risky, so please always do your own research.
So I want you to think about this number. Not that long ago, 50% of the entire PLAZM supply was liquid. That means half of it was just out there, freely available on the market.
And today, that number has been slashed to just 27%. Almost half of all that available supply has been soaked up, locked away, or straight up destroyed.
Now get this. This wasn't some slow, gradual change over a few years. This massive transformation happened in just 42 days. So the big questions are, how in the world did that happen? And maybe more importantly, where is this all heading?
Well, here's how we're going to break it down. We'll look at the supply squeeze itself, the three engines driving it, the math behind it all, what it means for you as a holder, and then we'll wrap it all up with the long-term thesis.
All right, so the most important thing to get your head around is that this isn't just random market noise. What we're witnessing is a deep structural shift. The PLAZM system was actually built by design to do this, to compress its own supply over time.
And this really puts it in perspective. Look at this. On day 84, half the supply was liquid. Just 42 days later, on day 126, that crashed down to 27%. That is a massive 23 percentage point drop in the supply that's even available to be sold.
Now, a shift like that doesn't just happen by accident, right? This whole thing is being powered by three very specific, very intentional engines, all firing at once to shrink that available supply. Let's get into how they work.
So, let's set our baseline. Here's the picture back on day 84. You see a system that's perfectly balanced. 50% of the supply is liquid and the other 50% is protected, meaning it's locked in staking, in liquidity pools, or it's been burned.
And now, bam! Look at day 126. The whole picture has flipped. Those protected categories have exploded, and now they make up almost 3/4 of the entire supply. That liquid slice of the pie got squeezed down to just 27%. The game has totally changed.
And here are the cold, hard numbers that made it happen. In just those 42 days, an extra 1.25 million tokens were locked into staking. Another 775,000 were locked into liquidity pools. And here's the kicker. Nearly 1 million tokens were permanently destroyed through burns. You add it all up, and the protected supply jumped by 23 points, which perfectly matches the 23-point drop in liquid supply.
Okay, so we've seen what happened. Now let's do a little projecting. If we take the rate of compression we've seen so far, what does the math tell us might be coming down the pike?
On average, this compression has been running at about 0.5 percentage point per day. Now, if that pace keeps up, we could see the liquid supply drop to around 20% by day 170 and maybe even hit 15% by day 220. The trend line is pretty clear, as long as these engines keep running.
But hang on, because this next part is absolutely crucial to understand. Not all this compression is the same. There is a huge difference between tokens that are locked up temporarily and tokens that are, well, gone for good.
See, staking is great. It's powerful. It puts tokens in a rolling 77-day lock. But eventually, those tokens can come back to the market. Burns, though, that's a whole different story. We're talking about permanent, irreversible destruction. These tokens are deleted from existence and can never, ever create sell pressure again.
And just look at the pace of these permanent burns. It has been accelerating like crazy. We went from just 3% burned on day 84 to smashing through the 1 million token milestone and hitting 15% on day 121. Just 5 days after that, we're at 16%. That's over 1.1 million tokens that are simply gone forever.
This all feeds into what you can think of as a compression flywheel. It's a self-reinforcing cycle. Step 1, burns reduce the total supply. Step 2, because the total supply is smaller, the same amount of yield actually burns a higher percentage of what's left. Step 3, this makes the supply shrink even faster, which makes the next burn even more powerful. The whole cycle just feeds on itself and accelerates.
So we've geeked out on the mechanics, we've looked at the math, but what does any of this actually mean for you, a long-term holder? Let's talk about the real, tangible benefits of this whole structure.
It really boils down to 3 key things for you.
First, as the total supply gets permanently smaller, your stack of tokens becomes a bigger piece of the overall pie. Second, with less and less liquid supply out there, the potential for big downward sell pressure is structurally reduced. And third, it means that time and the very structure of the system are working in your favor.
And this right here, this is really the core idea of this whole explainer. The price on any given day, it's going to be chaotic, it's going to fluctuate. But the supply structure, that's not random. That's a predictable trend, and it only moves in one direction.
Okay, let's pull all these threads together. Let's build the complete, cohesive, long-term thesis based on everything we've just walked through.
So, here it is, the whole thing in 5 simple points. 1, the liquid supply is constantly compressing. 2, it's being driven by those 3 engines, staking, burns, and LP. 3, those burns are permanent and they're growing every day. 4, the whole thing compounds on itself. At 5, the entire structure is built to favor the long-term holder.
Think about it. 50% liquid became 27% in 42 days. Over 1.1 million tokens are burned forever. 2.49 million are locked away in staking. And this compression continues, day in and day out. Today's price, that's just a snapshot in time. But the supply structure, that's a trajectory. One fluctuates, the other only moves in one direction. Compressed. Focus on the trajectory, because that's where long-term value lives.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. And just one last time, remember this is all for educational purposes. Digital assets carry significant risk. You should never invest more than you're willing to lose, and always do your own homework before making any financial decision.